4 decades, Alison Krauss has been defined by control. Control of her voice, clear, soft, and almost weightless. Control of her violin, precise and effortless. And control of a career that turned a quiet child prodigy into one of the most celebrated artists in American music history. With 27 Grammy Awards, she carried bluegrass into the mainstream, built a lasting legacy with Union Station, crossed genres with Raising Sand, and earned her place in both the Grand Ole Opry and the Bluegrass Hall of Fame. On the surface, her story looks flawless. But behind the calm exterior, not everything held together. Alison Maria Krauss was born in Decatur, Illinois, into a home where learning and creativity were simply part of life. Her father, an immigrant from Germany, valued discipline and education. Her mother, an illustrator and musician, filled the house with art and folk music. Alison absorbed everything, folk, pop, rock, without worrying about genre. At 5, she began classical violin. She resisted practice at first, but the technique stayed with her. For a while, roller skating competed with music until her early teens forced a decision. Music won. At just 8 years old, she entered a fiddle contest and placed 4th. It wasn't a victory, but it opened a door. She learned bluegrass by ear, pulling melodies straight from records and reshaping them instinctively. By 13, she was winning major fiddle championships and being called a virtuoso. Her rise wasn't loud or calculated. It happened at festivals, fairgrounds, and small stages, guided more by instinct than ambition. By the mid-1980s, Krauss had signed with Rounder Records and formed Union Station. At 16, she released her debut album, her voice already carrying the stillness that would define her sound. Success followed steadily, Grammys, acclaim, and in 1993, induction into the Grand Ole Opry as its youngest member in nearly 30 years. Collaboration became her strength, allowing her to move between bluegrass, country, and roots music without losing her center. That reach exploded in 2000 with Oh Brother, Where Art Thou?, a soundtrack that sold millions and reignited mainstream interest in bluegrass. Krauss brushed off the praise, insisting the audience had always been there. Then, quietly, everything slowed. In the early 2010s, she began losing her voice. Diagnosed with dysphonia, singing became difficult and unpredictable. In 2015, during a live show, she opened her mouth and nothing came out. The silence was devastating. She later realized it wasn't just physical, it was emotional. Years of restraint and control had tightened something inside her. Learning to sing again meant letting go, even if that meant yelling into the open air before performances just to release the tension. Her personal life followed the same quiet pattern. A fast marriage in the 1990s ended just as quietly in 2001. She never explained why. She protected her son, guarded her privacy, and stepped inward rather than outward. For Alison Krauss, silence was never weakness. It was survival. Even when her voice faded, her presence never did. And maybe that's the truth of her story, not perfection, but patience. Not control for its own sake, but knowing when to hold on and when to let go.